before we get into the conversation, I'd love to uh, welcome both Franz Paasche, Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs for PayPal, and Connie Evans, the President and CEO for the Association for Enterprise Opportunity. Welcome, both of you.
Thanks, Yusuf. Great to be here.
Really nice to join you.
Franz, I'd really like to start with you. You joined PayPal back in 2015, just ahead of the company's separation from eBay. And since then has played a really critical role to help organize the business around a set of core values. So in those 5 years, PayPal has firmly established itself as a purpose-driven company that's focused on serving the needs of your stakeholders, your employees, customers, and the communities that you operate in. Both through your product, services, and initiatives, you've prioritized both financial inclusion and financial help and health. And I'd love to have you share a bit about why PayPal, a digital payments company, has chosen to organize around this mission, and more specifically, how you're working to deliver that for both your employees and your customers.
Great. Well, before I jump in, I just want to thank the Hope Forum for hosting us, and also I can't think of a better pair to be discussing this with than Yusuf and Connie, and the work that you do that does so much good in the world and really focuses on what the business and the nonprofit community can do together. So going back to your question, Yusuf, and sort of how we emerged from eBay as an independent company and how we started to think about what PayPal's unique contribution could be to addressing some of the real challenges that as a world and as a society we face. We focused in on a mission that really grows out of PayPal's core capabilities, which is that we have the opportunity to play a big role in democratizing financial services and commerce, and to serve populations that have been underserved by the financial system. And as PayPal, we had the opportunity to focus on the financial health of underserved families and businesses and communities. And so we set as our North Star that focus on democratization of financial services and serving the underserved. And as we framed that mission, we understood that our values as a company had to be mutually reinforcing, and that the mission and the values, we had this opportunity really to craft them together in a way that we felt would be most meaningful for our employees and would also become an engine of fulfilling our mission and living our values. So if you think about, democratizing financial services is an inherently inclusive mission. And our first core value is inclusion, and how we think about everybody, both externally and internally, being deserving of full respect and equal opportunity, and to live in a world where there is no discrimination and where we address systemic inequalities. We also, as a second value, have the value of innovation, which is how do we draw on who we are and what we do and our technology and our capabilities to really push the envelope on what we can do to fulfill the mission and live our values. Our third value is collaboration. And that's the way in which we work with our partners, with the outside world, with nonprofits, with governments, and also internally as a fully collaborative group of teams to fulfill the mission. And then finally, we have as our fourth value, the value of wellness. And for PayPal, wellness covers the entire spectrum of how we think about wellness. And maybe what is distinctive to PayPal is we, from a very early time, really thought about wellness as including financial wellness, and how we think about our employees' financial wellness and the financial wellness and financial security of our customers. So with that as the sort of origin of the platform of our mission and values, it really set us on a pathway to, as a company, sort of unify around fulfilling that ambitious mission.
I'm really interested in, the pillars of both innovation and collaboration. I think since the split from PayPal, from eBay, you guys have really embraced element of cross-sector collaboration to meet the moment for your customers as you roll out both products and services. And as we saw starting in March through COVID, I think PayPal really underscored the importance of a partnership strategy. Can you tell us about some of the recent efforts that you've done, including the partnership with the US Treasury to assist with the rollout of stimulus checks and distributions of the PPP loans?
I think you're right in that we tried to bring that value of collaboration and partnership across all the dimensions of how we conducted our business. So, that meant partnering with financial institutions and card networks and other big players in the financial industry who had in the past perhaps been competitors, but we felt we could work together to create value for customers, for our shared customers, and to do more to build out the digital payments ecosystem. We also worked internally across function to really think of new ways we could serve customers. And I guess I'll say from my perspective, leading corporate affairs, from the very beginning, our social impact work and our social innovation work was embedded in the company from the core. We did not create a foundation and sort of have our social impact or CSR over here. We infused it into the heart of the company. And so we were from the very beginning looking at how do our products and services reflect our mission and focus on these problems we're trying to solve for our customers. How do we partner with nonprofits to bring in new thinking and bring in the kind of research and rigor and also deep connections in the community? No company can really take on these problems alone. It takes a real coalition approach. So we also understood that, and part of it is, of course, PayPal is a highly regulated company. We work with regulators and governments all over the world. We also felt that part of our responsibility and obligation was to partner with the public sector and to partner with governments and policymakers and regulators to also focus on how we could do more to serve underserved communities and businesses, to find access to capital for small businesses, to enable customers to do more to improve their financial health and to be able to support communities. And so when you think in terms of how we came into the pandemic period, we very quickly understood that we really had a role to play across our full spectrum of stakeholders. There's been a lot of discussion recently about stakeholder capitalism. And certainly I think from the very beginning, PayPal we've had that philosophy of how we think about our stakeholders and those whom we serve. So as we came into the pandemic, we understood we had to take care of our employees who are, of course, for us, our most important stakeholder. And by taking care of our employees, we felt we could serve our customers and our shareholders and public policy right off the bat. Then we focused on our customers, how we would help our customers come through the pandemic and all of the pressures that were on the small businesses and businesses of every size and on families. And we put in place a number of programs to help on that relief front. We stepped up to help the nonprofit community. PayPal has a significant donation platform, and we also have a lot of relationships with nonprofits where we could help. And then, of course, we looked in a very key stakeholder for us is the government. And now I'll come to your question, which is a long way to get to the first question you posed, but I think the framework might be helpful. We understood we could play a role in making sure that the PPP loans actually got to small businesses, and we reached out and collaborated and worked hard to help with the US Treasury and with the Small Business Administration to be sure that we could serve small businesses by ensuring that the PayPal protection loans got to those small businesses. So we were able to play a big role in helping to transmit those loans and to be sure that small businesses got the benefit there. And that was true when it came time to also distribute stimulus checks. And then as we started to look at ways that we could help address some of the economic opportunity gaps and the racial wealth gap, we started to partner more and more with nonprofits who have deep, deep roots in this work. And that includes the amazing partnership we have had with AEO and with Connie.
Well, just quickly want to touch on the idea of stakeholder capitalism. I work at Just Capital, and we measure and assess the 1,000 largest companies in America on what the American public really values, which is taking care of your workers, your customers, your communities that you operate in, and the environment. And it's no surprise that PayPal comes out as number 26 out of 1,000 of America's most just companies, and it's because of the partnerships that you talk about. And I'd love to bring Connie in here so that you can talk a little bit about both the mission of AEO, how you've served, I don't know, over 2 million entrepreneurs, help them create jobs for themselves and the community that they operate in, but also the longstanding partnership that you have with PayPal. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Certainly. And again, it's a real pleasure to join you, Youssef, and our dear partner, Franz. AEO is the name we go under, is the National Trade Association for U.S. microfinance and microbusiness. We have over 1,700 members across the country in every state, including Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico, who provide capital and business support services to underserved entrepreneurs. AEO's mission is to create economic opportunities for underserved entrepreneurs. And so when you think about our mission and the mission of PayPal to democratize financial services, it's an easy pairing that we've been able to have a partnership for some time. PayPal sits on the AEO board, and they have been a sponsor for annual events that AEO often host. We were so in admiration and appreciation that PayPal, our own partner, was immediately focused on helping Black-owned businesses in particular, and recognizing the need that they face with COVID-19. They immediately reached out to AEO, primarily, I think, because of our reach into the Black community. AEO has spent a great deal of time doing research and publishing and understanding the Black businesses and how they are challenged in this country, and understanding what their needs look like pre-COVID, and quickly being able to translate that, contact and reach out to our business owners to understand their needs at the time of COVID. That led us to partner and stand up very quickly the Empowerment Grant Program for Black business owners. And when I say very quickly, I think if there was some world record out there, we made it. Together, Working AEO quickly stood up and opened the application for these a $10,000 grant opportunity that actually was $10 million in grants. But we opened that up in like 48 hours. Within 72 hours, the first 72 hours, we had over 60,000 applications, probably requesting more than $200 million. And so even though this was a mighty and first out of the box and powerful grant program, that oversubscription just points to the need of Black businesses to get capital in a way, not loans, not taking on debt, but get capital in their hands, in their businesses, to first stabilize the business and then have a real shot at keeping those businesses sustainable over time.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I sit on the board of a organization called Black Women Talk Tech, and it's a community of over 30,000 Black women tech entrepreneurs. And we're really focused on identifying, supporting, and encouraging Black women to build their own businesses. As COVID hit, as you mentioned, Connie, it was a scramble to try to figure out how you keep operations running. We recently released a report, 71% of Black women founders are self-funded. And so, as the months went on, it became more and more difficult to run your business, to keep operations floating. And I'm not surprised by this, because back in July, Just Capital did a poll of Black Americans and around racial equity. One of the things that we heard, I think the most important thing we heard, was that 89% of Black respondents said companies should increase businesses with Black-owned suppliers.
I'm not surprised. AEO did a COVID-19 early survey And businesses told us that they had more than 63% of the respondents in that survey said they had less than 30 days to 45 days of cash. So getting a $10,000 grant pretty early in the process was quite meaningful.
Absolutely. So Franz, I want to talk about this because, you guys released this program, $530 million, and it was a commitment to support Black-owned businesses specifically. And really, this was you guys were one of the first companies to announce an investment this sizable. And really, it's targeted at closing the racial wealth gap. So how did you work with partners like AEO to really stand this up? You talked about 2 weeks, right? The 48 hours, this turning around such close to $10 million when it was so oversubscribed. How did you guys accomplish that?
Yeah, every one of those hours was a memorable hour too. I think Connie and I will never forget those weeks. So, when the pandemic hit, we could see the disproportionate impact that the pandemic was having on Black-owned and minority-owned businesses. And we were working on ways we could help. And part of it was by starting to really reach out to our nonprofit partners and to offer different forms of partnership. But what happened when, after George Floyd and when the country really was facing this sort of seismic moment for America, we understood that the country and our communities, and especially our Black communities, were facing really dire circumstances in terms of the inequality in the economic burden of the pandemic and the effects of systemic racism that were coming into broader and broader relief as the pandemic progressed. And so we started to reach out right away to think through sort of as PayPal, as a company. And we can't do everything, of course, but there are things we can do, and we wanted to do our part. So the first thing we did is we focused on making some contributions to organizations that were focused on healing and reconciliation. And we made those kinds of contributions to support those efforts in Minnesota and Chicago and New York and in other cities where there was real work needed right away on that kind of healing and reconciliation. But simultaneously, we started reaching out to nonprofit partners who were deeply expert, like Connie and her team are, in what needed to be done urgently and quickly that a company like PayPal could help with. And as we developed the program, we realized that one of the first things we could do is make an immediate cash infusion to small businesses on main streets all over the country, especially in areas that were already economically stressed in deep ways, even before the pandemic. And this is something PayPal has been focused on for some time, is how do we focus resources on parts of the world and in the United States where economic inequality is affecting both people's ability to take care of their financial health, but also how communities function and how we all kind of sort of come together in a democracy like ours. And so we started talking to nonprofits, and in a very short amount of time, we realized that we needed to put together a major program that had multiple elements. And so if you think about of the $530 million, the first thing out of the box we focused on was partnering with AEO, and we could not have done this without AEO. They were a magnificent partner who rose to the occasion, and together we set a high ambition of going straight out with $10 million in small grants to the businesses that we collectively focused on, who we felt that were in the most dire need and whom we could help and save. And I think, we started this session with the Cam Kirk Studios video, and that's just one example of over 1,000 small businesses who were the recipients of our joint effort and of the empowerment grant. The second tranche of what we focused on was another set of investments, over $5 million in partnership funds, to partner with 20 nonprofits around the country who are focused in high need areas on supporting and sustaining Black-owned businesses. And AEO, of course, is one of those partners. And we focus not only on how we could sustain the 1,200 or so small businesses that receive the empowerment grants, like we're not walking away. We are going to help support them over time with our partner, and support them with a lot of different kinds of technical support with the help of other partners. But we also wanted to extend our ability to help in communities where Black-owned businesses are struggling. And so we have 20 new partnerships, and those we will sustain, and work with those partners to help support Black-owned businesses. Then we knew that, and we've learned this over time, that if we are really going to live our values, we've got to walk the walk externally and walk the talk and walk the walk internally. So we took another $15 million and are investing it into PayPal's community to support our employee resource groups, to work on talent development, on how we recruit, how we sustain and nurture an inclusive community, and how we engage all of our employees in focusing on inclusion in a way that supports the PayPal community and also enables this work. And then the largest tranche was we took $500 million to create an opportunity fund where we are going to be focusing on investing in Black-owned and minority-focused venture funds in businesses that are Black-owned and minority-owned, and also in using our capital in Black-owned community banks and financial institutions so that those institutions can put the money to work in communities. Once again, the spirit of partnership infusing all of this, because we are humble coming into this. You know, we're one company. We have a lot of will. We have a lot of determination, and we're mission driven. But we understand this is a partnership world. This is a collaboration world, and that's the way we're going to affect change at scale.
It's interesting that you talk about the sort of the longer infusion and the first $10 million and then the 15 internally, but then the larger 500, because we understand that the pipeline is really incredibly important. And while the cash infusion is one part of it, and the founders that we talk to are incredibly grateful for that first tranche, there needs to be sort of long-term sustainability with the support. And so, Connie, I'm curious about what some of the folks within your network said about this infusion first, but then sort of beyond the initial cash infusion, what else is happening? How are you supporting the founders long-term? Is it through some of the other initiative that PayPal has launched, or is it through other means?
Yeah, this ongoing support is critical. We've known AEO, and it's, as you said, our large network of partners on the ground working with businesses. They know that capital is important, but it's not, it's necessary, but not sufficient. Most of these businesses really do need some of the non-financial business support. Many needed help with getting an online presence. All kinds of things, need help with marketing. So what we're doing next through our partnership, but as Franz has talked about, collaboration is key. And so we've assembled a broader partnership that includes companies like MasterCard and Facebook, GuideStar, Deloitte, and Qualtrics have all come together to create and design a program that we're calling Resili. And Resili is a program, a suite of products, services, and solutions that will allow businesses to continue to build and strengthen their resilience so that they can keep going far past this COVID pandemic. And so it brings marketing services. I think one of the key pieces before talking about the individual, even necessarily getting into all the individual solutions, what's key is that it starts with businesses having a way to really assess their own health of their companies. And by being able to get an assessment of where their company is right now, as everything seems to keep changing day after day, month after month in this pandemic environment and pandemic infused recession, they're able to go to one place, be able to get an assessment, conduct an assessment of their own business, have that kind of response in terms of a printout of here's how your business looks right now. And they are able then to take that and prioritize the areas where they want to focus first. Then all of the services that they might need to, strengthen the areas that show up as needing some help, we will then have all of those products, services, solutions available to them for them to be able to enroll. All of these products and service solutions will be available free of charge for at least through the first 12 months and hopefully beyond that. Through the periods of time, we intend to add additional services as they are needed or as they are able to come online as we bring on other partners. It's a critical, important piece to helping to build resilience that leads to the kind of sustainability that's required right now and going forward for these companies all to just rebuild, hang in there first, because we still have a long way to go through the pandemic, but really be able to rebuild even stronger.
Yeah, I just add, I think one of, we started out by talking about, the role of employees and how companies focusing on their employees is part of the way in which we affect change. We've had just a surge of volunteerism, and our PayPal employees want to help. They want to help the businesses that have received grants. They want to help other small businesses. And it's been just inspiring to see how engaged and focused our employees are in rallying around these initiatives. And it's a good call out I would just make for others who may be looking at similar programs. It's a remarkable feeling and an inspiration to see so many colleagues just step up and say, okay, what can I do? How can I bring my unique skills or just my time or my labor or my goodwill to help in these endeavors and to help others who need us and who we want to partner with. So that's been a really important aspect of this. And I think AEO and others have been great about embracing that premise.
We've been able to not only take some of these volunteers, but I don't want you to get the sense that, oh, you can just step up and do this. We actually have brought in, mentoring programs and partners who know how to do this and are training the PayPal employees. So it's all about having the right partnerships and building these pieces and platforms so that at the end of the day, everyone can feel like they really are contributing to the success of these Black-owned businesses, which is just so key. We really are. It does take a village, right? And so building that village in all kinds of ways is proving to be really a successful strategy.
That's so real. I mean, I think the innovation that, Franz, you and the team and Dan have built at PayPal and this sort of collaboration that you've done with AEO, with Connie and the other partners are critically important, especially in this moment, as we've seen, really to help these founders initially, help these entrepreneurs. But we recognize, and to take it back to Cam Kirk's video, it wasn't only his business, but it was the businesses that were supported through his business. And that's what we see a lot as it relates to Black-owned businesses. So we are out of time, but I did want to thank you both for spending time talking about this initiative, the Empowerment Grant. We think it's critically important, and the best to the both of you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks. Thanks, Yusuf. And I also want to just thank Just Capital. You have been a great partner, and the work you're doing is really moving the needle. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Connie.
It's a pleasure, Franz. Take care.